Chapter 7. Chapter 7 begins on page 50. It's called The Windy Bird. Unaware that the pirates had found their hiding place, the boys waited for a while and then emerged from their underground cave. Suddenly, Nib saw something in the sky. "Look at that white bird," he said. "It sounds as if it's saying, 'Poor Windy.' It must be a windy bird." It wasn't actually a bird that Nib saw at all, but poor Windy herself flying up above. The boys heard another sound, and it was the voice of Tinker Bell, shrill and jealous. She was no longer pretending to be nice to Windy, but was pinching her and trying to make her fall. "Peter wants you to shoot this white bird," Tink called down to the boys. "Quick," the boys cried. "Bows and arrows." Toodles excitedly fitted an arrow to his bow. "Get out of the way," Tink, he shouted. He fired, and Windy fluttered to the ground with an arrow in her breast. "I shot the windy bird," Toodles bragged. "Peter will be so proud of me." "Silly donkey," Tinker Bell clinked, laughing at her trick before going to hide. She knew she would be in trouble for urging poor Toodles to shoot Windy. Slightly frowned as he looked at Windy. "Well, that's no bird," he said. "I think it's a lady." "A lady?" Toodles replied nervously. "Peter was bringing a lady to take care of us, and you've gone and killed her," Curly said. Toodles took a deep breath, a deep, sad breath. "I did. I shot the windy lady," he said quietly, and turned to leave the group. Just then, the boys heard a crowing sound up above. It was Peter's signal. He was back. They gathered around Windy so Peter would not see her. He dropped to the ground in front of them, but no one said a word. "Why so quiet, boys?" Peter asked. But none of the boys spoke. "Never mind," Peter said. "I have bad news." "Oh, not bad news." "Never mind," Peter said. "I have news. I've brought you back a mother. You may even have seen her already. I think she was flying this way." Toodles cleared his throat. "Boys," he said bravely, "step aside." The boys obeyed, revealing Windy's body. Peter bent and took the arrow from Windy's heart and turned to face his band of boys. "Whose arrow is this?" he asked sternly. "Mine, Peter," Toodles replied. Angrily, Peter raised the arrow, prepared to hit Toodles with it. But he couldn't do it. At that moment, Nib saw Windy move. "The windy lady!" he cried. "She moved her arm." Peter bent over Windy again and saw the acorn that he had given her when she asked for a kiss. It was on a string around her neck. The arrow had hit the acorn and saved her life. "Hurry up and get better," he said, "so I can introduce you to the boys and the mermaids." From her hiding spot up above, Tink sighed loudly. "Listen to Tink crying, 'cause the windy lady's alive," Curly said, and the boys told Peter of her crime. "We're not friends anymore, Tink," Peter cried. "Go away and never come back." Frantically, Tinker Bell flew onto Peter's shoulder and begged his forgiveness, but he brushed her off. Lying on the ground, Windy stirred slightly. She was waking up. "It'll be all right," she said wearily. "You don't have to banish her." "Well, all right," Peter told Tinker Bell. "You can come back, but not for a whole week." You'd think Tinker Bell would be grateful to Windy for defending her. But Windy's generosity only made Tink want to pinch her even more. Windy, in the meantime, was so tired and sore from her hard fall that she rolled onto her side and fell asleep. "I have an idea," Peter said. "Let's build Windy a house." The boys were thrilled. They loved to build. They were incredibly quick carpenters, too, scurrying around for firewood and branches, twigs, and looking for soft, cushiony flowers to use as her bedding. Just then, John and Michael dropped from the sky. They had been sleep flying, but they woke up as soon as they hit the ground. "Mama?" Michael cried, rubbing his eyes. "Nana?" "Where are we?" John asked. "Are we dreaming?" Finally, the boys spotted Peter. "Oh, hello," Peter said distractedly. He'd forgotten all about them. Using his feet as a ruler, he bent to measure Windy to see how big her new house should be. "Come on," he told her brothers. "We're building a house for Windy, and you have to help." "Well, I don't see why Windy should get her own house," John said. "She's only a girl." "She's going to be our mother," Curly said. "Now you heard Peter. Get to work." Windy moved and groaned in her sleep. "Slightly," Peter cried. "Go get her a doctor." Slightly said, "Aye, aye," and left at once, before remembering there were no doctors on the island. Still, he knew better than to disobey Peter, so he returned wearing John's hat, looking very serious. Although the other boys knew that Slightly was just pretending, Peter did not. To him, make-believe was the same as true. And so, convinced that Slightly was in fact a doctor, he said, "Help this lady, she's very ill." "I will give her some medicine," said Slightly, bending over the sleeping Windy and pretending to do just that. "And there, she is cured." "What a relief," Peter said. While Wendy slept and the boys built her house around her, they knew that she would love it because as she slept, she sang, I wish I had a pretty house, the smallest ever seen, the bright and shiny reddish walls and a roof of mossy green. And as they worked, the boys sang back, we've built your walls and mossy roof and made a lovely door. So tell us now, Wendy Mother, do you want something more? Still sleeping, Wendy sang, well, since you ask, I'd surely grin, for windows all about, with daffodils peeping in and babies peeping out. And so the boys built windows and pulled flowers for Wendy, but they weren't quite sure what to do about the babies. Let's just pretend that part, they said. When they were finished, the house was beautiful, and Wendy completely was contained inside. They were about to go inside to surprise her when they realized they had forgotten to put a knocker on the door. Silly donkeys, Tinker Bell cried from above. Toodles gave the sole of his shoe to hang on the door, which did the trick. Now there was nothing left to do but knock. Everyone stand up straight, Peter warned, and be on your best behavior. He knocked politely, and all the boys waited. When Wendy opened the door, blinking sleepily, the boys whipped off their hats and bowed. Where am I? She said, confused and surprised. The boys practically tumbled over one another to explain. We built you this house, Slightly said. Do you like it? Asked Nibs. Well, it's lovely, she said, looking around. How did you know it's exactly what I wanted? Just clever, I guess, said Slightly. He saw no need to tell her that she'd been singing in her sleep. Can we be your children? The twins asked. Well, Wendy said, that's awfully nice of you, but I am only a child myself. I have no real experience. That's okay, Peter said, although he actually knew less about mothers than any of them. We just need a nice motherly person. You'll do. Wendy agreed to try and invited all the boys into her new house. As they gathered around, she did her first motherly thing and told them the end of Cinderella. When she was finished, she followed the boys to their cave, tucked them in for the evening before returning to her own home. That is the end of chapter 7. So I'm going to upload this video. Remember to do your workbook page. And if you or your parents have any questions, email me, send me a remind message. If your parents have me on Facebook or my phone number, they can text or send me a message there. So I will see you tomorrow. Bye.